Come see us doing live shows. We'll be in Los Angeles, Honolulu, Baltimore, Atlantic City, Cohoes, New York, Providence, Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and only jimmydore.com. Hey, I don't know if you heard about this, but RFK, I didn't know anything about this. That the way they bill, the whole billing system for medical care in the United States is rigged by the American Medical Association, the AMA. And so that has probably a lot to do with why stuff costs so much in the United States. Robert Kennedy, RFK, look at him standing there behind a fence watching the guys beat the crap out of each other. And Tulsi's right there. What do you think? Why do you think she's biting her lip like that? Anyway, Robert Kennedy is considered an upheaval to U.S. Medicare doctors' billing system. What? What do you mean? Get this. He's working on plans to rid the doctors' lobbying. So a doctors' lobbying group has control over the lucrative part of Medicare billing. And isn't that weird? And he's going to take on a vested interest in the world's costliest healthcare system, according to people close to the discussion. Kennedy, who was tapped by Trump, Donnie Tannehans, last week to run the U.S. Health and Human Services Department, has held discussions with advisors about how to remove the American Medical Association from its role in drawing up Medicare's billing codes, which set doctors' fees for more than 10,000 procedures, ranging from laboratory tests to chemotherapy. So you would think that Medicare would set it, the price. They don't. A doctors' lobbying group called the AMA. The plan would result in an upheaval of a system that has been in place for decades, or do you say decades? And it is the latest sign that Trump's pick for health secretary intends to take a hammer to the American health establishment. They make Financial Times, this is from Financial Times, they make that sound like a bad thing. You think they're trying to make it sound like a bad thing? I think they are. I think the Financial Times has a financial interest. Kennedy has railed against issues ranging from the wide-scale rollout of COVID-19 vaccines to industry's outsized influence over drug regulation. Since the early 80s, the United States government has relied on the AMA, the industry body, for more than 170,000 doctors to maintain billing codes known as the current procedural terminology that determine how a fifth of Medicare Part B's $490 billion budget is spent every year. Some 66 million Americans over 65 years old are covered by Medicare. Kennedy's team has discussed how the CPT process could be done in-house by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. You would think that's how they would do it. No. This is more regulatory capture. That's what RFK is dealing with here. That the body, the Medicare and Medicaid services inside the government, is being dictated to by a lobbying group. For-profit doctors. Kennedy's plan would cause huge bureaucratic disruption for Medicare and threaten the AMA's biggest revenue. That's their biggest revenue stream. They get paid to do this. Republican lawmakers previously considered changing the system, but balked at the complexity. I bet that's what scared them off, the complexity. I'm sure it wasn't the lobbying money from the AMA. The discussions show how influential Kennedy, known as RFK Jr., oh, thanks, that's his nickname, is it? Is likely to be in directing the Trump administration's health policy agenda, an issue that did not feature heavily in the presidential-elect's campaign. Kennedy, well, it kind of did. Mahat was a big deal. Kennedy has been vocal about taking on the healthcare industry's influence over policymaking. In a post on Twitter following his nomination, Kennedy vowed to clean up corruption, stop the revolving door between industry and government, and return our health agencies to their rich tradition of gold standard evidence-based medicine. Pharmaceutical executives have been alarmed at RFK's nomination, which has hit biotech stocks because of his skepticism towards vaccines. Reforms of the CPT codes would also represent an existential threat to the AMA, the American Medical Association lobbying group, which generates more than half of its $495 million of annual revenues from its CPT work and other royalty payments. Well, isn't that something? I bet they are chagrined. A person close to the lobbying group said changes to Medicare's billing system could unleash as much chaos as the hack of United Health has changed how. What? So they're trying to scare you. Oh my God, he shouldn't do this. Chaos is coming. Financial Times getting a little bit of that sweet AMA money. Mike, that's my guess. Robert Berenson, a CMS official under the Clinton administration, who is now senior policy fellow. I'd like to be a fellow at the Urban Institute, a think tank, said changes to the codes would cause chaos. It's going to cause chaos without a flight plan about what's next. Chaos. I bet they're going to be able to handle it. I have a feeling. Berenson pointed out that some other Medicare billing codes are drawn up in-house by the CMS. But he said even if an alternative were found, doctors and the AMA would be very unhappy with the change. Oh, well, we shouldn't want to make the AMA unhappy. So this guy, Robert Berenson, who was a CMS official under Clinton, so what does that tell you? Bill Clinton was completely bought and paid for by Big Pharma, by the lobbying groups, by Wall Street, by the military-industrial complex. He was complete. So I'm going to guess that guy is too. And that's why he's saying these things. Kevin Bass, PhD, MS, says he's proposing eliminating the American Medical Association's role in Medicare's billing codes. These billing codes are 60% of the AMA's revenue. Eliminating their role in Medicare may effectively defund the AMA. Well, at least 60%. Robert Kennedy considers upheaval to U.S. medical doctors. That's right. I say good. The Washington Post also talked about this. Here's what they say. The coding system tends to reward healthcare providers for surgeries and other costly procedures. Oh, you mean they don't get paid if they do preventative medicine and keep people healthy? No. It's all on the back end. They get paid more if you're sick, right? Yeah. It has been accused of steering physicians to become specialists because they will be paid more, while financial incentives are different in other countries where more physicians go into primary care and health outcomes are better. So in the United States, everybody's pushed into becoming a specialist because that's where the money is, and that's why they say there's a shortage of primary care doctors, although I can't get in to see a dermatologist to save my life. So it's tough. Can you believe there aren't enough doctors in the United States where all the money is in medical? Although policymakers have spent years warning about the Medicare's billing codes and their skewed incentives, nobody ever did anything about it. And now Bobby's going to do something about it, and people are like, it's chaos! Chaos! So the technicalities of billing codes and the financial interests for industry groups, customer. So that's right. So he's going to change all that. It's a very low salience issue. I don't know what that means. What does low salience mean? What is salience? I don't even know what salience means. Salience? What does salience mean? Yes. So that's right. It's very low important issue. Look at Merriam-Webster using a big $5 word, huh? Good for you. You should be a writer. It's a very low important issue, said Merriam-Webster, a Columbia University professor who has written a book. So she has written a book. She's a writer. Fixing Medical Prices, about Medicare's physician payments. The prominent stakeholders in this area would probably prefer to keep it that way. So again, she's using these words that make it hard to, she's talking like she's a lawyer. The prominent stakeholders in this area, she means the people making the money off of this, doing it this way. So the people making the money off of doing it this way want to keep it this way. Wow. Could you imagine having a dinner conversation with this woman? Medicare's billing codes are shaped by the American Medical Association, which represents more than 250,000 physicians. The lobbying group oversees a panel of several dozen physicians known as the AMA Specialty Society RVS Update Committee. Wow. More commonly referred to as the RUC. Holy shit. There's lots of names for them. Who study the resources needed for each medical service and issue recommendations to the federal government. While those recommendations are not binding, federal officials overwhelmingly accept them and use them. So it doesn't matter if they're buying, they just take them. So whatever the AMA says you should charge, that's what they do. The panel's recommendations have historically been skewed by misleading estimates of how physicians spend their time, according to a 2013 Washington Post investigation. You mean something over a decade ago you've known this? And nobody got around to it. Not Barack Obama, not Donald Trump, not Joe Biden and Kamala. But now Bobby Kennedy's going to get around to it. Chaos! Hammer! For instance, the Post found that RUC repeatedly inflated the amount of time a doctor needed to perform a procedure. The AMA also collects millions of dollars in revenue from its work to develop the recommendations. We already told you that. With the lobbying group conducting trainings, selling books, and charging royalties. Good to have for-profit medicine, isn't it? Lawmakers have spent decades, or do you say decades, questioning why physicians play a role in setting their own federal payments. Trent Lott, the Mississippi Republican who served as Senate Minority Leader, in 2001, he took aim at the lobbying group's influence, calling to strip the AMA's copyright for the codes. Senators say those concerns have persisted. Oh, I guess it didn't win, though. It didn't work? Okay. No. I've long been concerned with this secretive AMA committee setting their own payment rates from Medicare, said Elizabeth Warren, who hasn't done a fucking thing about it. But I like to whack my finger. Whoa! She said in a statement to the Post, good for you, Elizabeth Warren, my favorite Native American. It's just, by the way, it's Native American month. Did you know that? So she must be very happy, Elizabeth Warren. It's just plain unethical. These recommendations should be made in the best interest of patients and taxpayers, not a handful of well-connected insiders. Whoa! Elizabeth Warren will never do anything. She likes to say, she talks a good game. Any federal attempt to overhaul billions of dollars in annual payments to healthcare providers appears destined to spark an intense lobbying effort to stymie the changes or shift them to reward certain procedures. Yep. The billing codes are implemented by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. So that's the CMS, I guess, commonly known as the CMS. Trump on Tuesday selected Dr. Oz to lead the CMS. Jesus H. Are you kidding me? Our CMS codes embedded a system that waits for Americans to get sick and profits. Who said that? Callie Means, a Kennedy advisor. If Kennedy and Oz are confirmed, they would play significant roles in reshaping the Medicare coding system. The CMS department has a larger budget than defense and intelligence. Well, we don't know what the budget is for intelligence, do we? Bigger? Really? So we spend more. Well, I guess that's good. That's good that we spend more on Medicare for old people than we do for bombs. I mean, that actually makes me feel good. It is clear that the RUC process is broken and that the AMA has no interest in even minor changes. Center for American Progress, a left-leaning think tank, wrote in 2018. Again, that's almost, was that, I don't know, 16 years? I don't know how long ago that was. 6 years ago? That's 6? The cabal wields its influence to favor costly specialty care over primary care, and the prices of physician services skyrocket year after year. That's right. That's a Silicon Valley entrepreneur and Republican donors wrote that in 2019. So, again, here's more good news from RFK Jr. So that's good. These are all good things. Good thing he's being put in charge of the healthcare policy and not the Israel policy. That's all I'm just saying. Come on, am I right? Come on, you see what I'm saying? Come see us doing live shows. We'll be in Los Angeles, Honolulu, Baltimore, Atlantic City, Cohoes, New York, Providence, Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets and only jimmydore.com.